I just discovered a family that's secretly been behind a $36 billion empire for 170 years. You've never heard of them, but they're the reason we have the Empire State Building, the Eiffel Tower, and nearly every skyscraper you've ever seen. I'm David. I run a boring air filter company that makes $22 million a month, and I teach people the simple truths about money that everyone else ignores. Their story is old, but it teaches the principles that every millionaire still obsesses over today. In 1853, Elijah Otis built a 170-year fortune by ignoring what everyone else was doing, and that's the only way generational wealth actually happens. At the 1854 Crystal Palace exhibition, he stood on a platform and had someone cut the rope with an axe. The platform dropped a few inches, then stopped. That approach, solving fear instead of building features, created a 170-year fortune. That's why I talk about following your unique path. About 5 years into FilterBuy, I got a $10 million offer for 40% of the business. I met with a very successful PE guy in Palo Alto who had made hundreds of millions of dollars by his 40s. We walked around the Stanford campus and he asked about my background. I came from Talladega, Alabama, a prominent family in that town. I didn't come from poverty. He said, "David, it's so odd to meet someone this driven with such a chip on his shoulder that didn't come from a broken background." He was trying to fit me into a pattern. Broken background, chip on shoulder, extreme drive, success. But that wasn't my path. You can't manufacture someone else's obsession. FilterBuy works not because I copied Amazon or Costco. It works because I followed a unique insight about subscriptions in air filters that only I saw clearly enough to bet everything on. And that's the exact same thing that Otis did. If you want to find your unique path, stop looking outward and start looking inward. Most people try to copy someone else's playbook. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, what do I know better than most people? Because I've lived it, not just read about it. Second, what problem do I see that no one else seems to care about? And third, what would I still work on even if nobody noticed? That's where your unique insight is hiding. When Elijah Otis died in 1861, his sons Charles and Norton faced the moment where most family businesses fail. But they made a choice that changed everything. They chose evolution. They took freight elevators and pivoted to passenger elevators for the skyscraper boom. They introduced steam-powered versions, then hydraulic, then electric. They transformed the business for a new market. They kept the core insight, saw fear, but applied it to a new problem. How do we get people to live and work in tall buildings? This is why Otis is still around. If you look at the top 100 companies from 100 years ago, almost none exist today. The average business life cycle is 5 years or less. The moment your business starts working, that's when the real danger begins. Because success creates comfort, and comfort kills innovation. If you want to build something that lasts, you have to build a culture that's never satisfied. Reward experimentation, because survival doesn't go to the strongest, it goes to the ones who adapt. By the time the Empire State Building was being built, something surprising had happened at Otis, and it's the reason their elevators are still in almost every building that you see today. By the early 1900s, this was the golden age of skyscrapers. The Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and Otis's elevators were in all of them. But here's what's interesting. The brothers brought in professional president William Baldwin in 1898. Professional managers pioneered the gearless traction elevator, automatic controls, and push-button systems. In 1910, Otis went public. Then, in 1976, they sold to United Technologies Corporation, completely exiting operational control. The family diversified their wealth out of elevators entirely, and that's exactly why the wealth survived. I think it's a fool's errand to think that because you have genetics, you're going to be best off running the business. Things shift, things change, core competencies have to evolve with the times, with new technologies. Also, I don't want to force my 3 daughters to work in air filtration when they're in their 20s. They'll have varied interests and other passions. They'd be better off pursuing those rather than me forcing them into a company that other people are likely to be better stewards of. There comes a point in every great business where the founder has to get out of the way. That's not failure, That's stewardship. So after you exit your company, how do you ensure your children and grandchildren will always have everything they need? In 2020, Otis was spun off from United Technologies and became independent again. The company keeps leading the way. The original 1853 safety brake has evolved into AI-powered elevator systems and smart building networks. Their innovation outlived the founders, and so did their wealth. Because they didn't just build a company, they built structure, trust, diversified assets, and systems that compound even without them running the show. That's exactly how I've thought about my own exit. I've already transferred my assets to my kids and potentially grandchildren through a living trust structure. I want my kids and potentially grandkids to have a fixed amount every year or every month, enough to live a good life, but not so much that they are not incentivized to go out and build something. This is the Warren Buffett principle. Give your kids enough that they never go hungry, enough to do whatever they want in life, but not enough to do nothing. Fulfillment doesn't come from money, but money can enable you to chase your dreams without the pressure that comes from having to put food on the table. So how do you start? First, you need to build the skills and experience that give you a real foundation to build on, because no structure matters if there's nothing solid underneath it. But once you're ready to execute, here's what you do. Find a great estate attorney who actually works with business owners, not just retirees. You want someone who understands operating companies, liquidity events, and trust. Then you need to loop in your tax advisor. They'll help you to model the impact, how much you can gift, what the timing looks like, and how the trust fits into your larger strategy. And most importantly, build a family office mindset. Even if it's just you for now, treat your family like the enterprise that it is. Because if you wait until after you sell, or worse, after you're gone, it's too late to compound across generations. Generational wealth isn't about what you leave your kids, it's about what you set in motion before you leave. If you want to take your business to the next level, I want to learn more. In 2026, I'll be visiting and maybe even investing in some of my favorite boring businesses in the world. Send an email to the email on the screen now. Tell me a bit about your business, where you're located, and what you're hoping to do next. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. If you like this video, watch my video on why nobody wants to do the job that makes millionaires.